Take a look at this position. Material is equal, and yet black is completely hopeless. There isn't a single useful move. This position didn't come from a tactical mistake or an opening trap. It came from a close center and the way both sides handled it. Let's go back and see how it happened. In this game, I was playing white. The game started as the Queen's Indian. After completing development, black had to decide what kind of pawn structure they wanted. They chose c5. At first glance, that looks perfectly reasonable. Black's position looks solid, but there is already a problem. Take a look at black's bishops. The one on b7 is just staring at a pawn chain that isn't going anywhere, and the other one isn't much better. It's hard to see where black's active play is supposed to come from, and in a close position, that's often the first question both players should ask. White's answer begins with knight e1. Moving a developed knight back to the first rank looks strange, but in positions like these, where the center is locked, play shifts to the flanks, and this move supports the f4 pawn break. Black immediately reacts with knight e8, planning the same idea with f5. So both sides are aiming for activity on the wings, and whoever manages to achieve their pawn break first will take over the initiative. White continues with g3. This might look slow, but it's necessary. Without it, an early f4 would leave the e4 pawn weak and give black an outpost on e5. Black played bishop g5. A few moves ago, both sides are preparing pawn breaks on the king side. Now, black is trying to reduce white's attacking potential. Black has less space, and exchanges usually help the side with a more cramped position. On top of that, black's dark square bishop is not that active, so trading it for white's bishop would be a welcome result. If instead black insists on preparing f5, they first need g6, which gives white enough time to play f4, putting pressure on e5. Now there is no reason to accept the bishop trade. White can continue with the original plan by playing f4, and it comes with tempo. My opponent chose bishop f6. The bishop reinforces the pawn and hopes to become active if white captures on e5. But white has no reason to help black. Now f5 looks tempting, but I played knight f3. It increases the pressure on e5 and controls the important g5 square. That last point is especially important, because if white pushes f5 immediately, black's bishop may be able to return to g5 and finally achieve the trade they have been aiming for. This is the beginning of the typical pawn storm on the king side when the center gets closed. There's no danger to the white king. Black reacts with h6 to slow down white's kingside expansion, because if white ever gets to play g4 and g5, black's position becomes very difficult. After bishop e3, black finally gets a chance to think about their own counterplay, playing knight c7. It supports the idea of a queenside expansion with b5. But what to do after white plays a3? It prepares b4. If black plays a6, the b5 break is too slow. And if a5, which happened in the game, the structure gets fixed, and it becomes very difficult to support black's queenside expansion with b5 again. Their counterplay is already over. So, in practical terms, black is forced into passive defense on the queen side, while white continues expanding on the king side. In other words, white dominates on both flanks. Now, with black reduced to a passive position, white has time to improve the pieces. So, queen d2, queen e7. And now I want you to pause for a moment. Try to find a way to improve white's position. Take a look at the bishop on d3. It is restricted by its own pawn structure. So the plan is to reroute it to c2 and then to a4. It's not about immediate tactics, it's about improving the worst placed piece before starting the next phase of the attack. Now it's time to continue the kingside expansion. The most natural move is g4, but it has a drawback. It would make it harder to later play h4. It also gives black the chance to respond with g5 at the right moment and potentially lock the kingside. So I played h4, a more flexible move. It immediately prevents g5. Now white's plan is to secure the h4 pawn before pushing g4. Even the king can support this plan by heading to g2 and h3. On the other side, it's becoming difficult for black to improve anything meaningfully. They played knight h7, adding another defender to the g5 square. White continues improving the position with rook f2 and rook a f1, bringing all forces into the attack. Meanwhile, black has no real active plan. The knight is just drifting between h7 and f8. Now the rook wants to support the g4, g5 advance. But before white can push the pawns forward, the h4 pawn still needs sufficient support. And black understands what is coming, so they play h5. Now if white continues with g4, black can capture and damage white's pawn structure. But it doesn't actually stop white's attack. It only changes its character. Instead of attacking with 3 connected pawns, white now has the g-file to attack on. And new attacking ideas begin to appear. In particular, the h-pawn may eventually advance to h6. Black tries to prepare by moving the king to h8. White's king steps aside and leaves room for the rook. One of the biggest advantages of having more space on both flanks in a close position is that there is no need to rush. Black's position is so passive that they are reduced to waiting moves, and rook a f8 is a good example. So white continues improving the position. First comes h5, not because the attack is ready, but because it brings the h6 advance one step closer. Again, there is no need to force anything. Black continues defending and brings another piece toward the king side. Queen g2, increasing the pressure even further. Black plays bishop c8, and now we have reached the position from the start of this lesson. The contrast between the two armies is impossible to miss. White's pieces are as active as they can be. The king side attack is ready. All that remains is to open a path into black's position. And there are many ways to do it. The most obvious and straightforward one is to just push h6, take on g7, and force the exchange of rooks with bishop h6. After the queen recaptures, black is facing a terrible scene and is about to lose a ton of pieces. But there is an even more elegant way to win. Bishop f2 with an idea to bring the knight to h4, followed by sacrifice on g6, opening the h-file, and checkmate is inevitable. The attack may look impressive, but the real story of this game is not the attack. It's how the space advantage in a close position allowed white to improve every piece while black slowly ran out of options. The real victory came from understanding how to play close positions.